Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Ten Under 10 on the Hoosier Network. I'm Adam Oppenheim with Graham Nash, and we had a week filled with tons of basketball action in men's hoops. Let's start on the court. We will start at the top of the Big Ten Conference and work our way through the top 25. The Michigan State Spartans continue to cruise as the 8th-ranked team in the nation. They took down Rutgers in Piscataway 81-74. Number 11, Purdue, had the biggest win in the Big Ten this past week as they crushed Michigan 91-64 at home. That game was one game after losing to Ohio State in West Lafayette. 15th-ranked Oregon had an up-and-down season, and that continued as they beat Washington 82-71, but lost at Minnesota 77-69. A shocking result in the Big Ten as Maryland took down number 17 Illinois in Champaign 91-70. The Illini did bounce back in the in-state rivalry against Northwestern 83-74. Wisconsin, ranked 18th, lost 85-83 versus UCLA, but won in dominating fashion 83-55 against Nebraska. The only other ranked team in the Big Ten was 21st-ranked Michigan, and as I mentioned earlier, they got blown out by Purdue and West Lafayette. Graham, I'll turn to you. I want to ask you about the Purdue-Michigan game. What went right for the Boilermakers?
Their defense was phenomenal. I think that's where it starts. Forced 22 turnovers against Michigan and kept them under 69 points, which they're now 11-0 as a program when they do that. If you're going to keep a really good team, under that few points, you're going to have success, and that's exactly what they did. Defense was phenomenal, forced so many turnovers, got a bunch of rebounds, but then also Braden Smith is unbelievable.
Yeah, he was the preseason player of the year in the Big Ten.
Yeah, generational talent, this guy. He was the first player this century to have 20-plus points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds, 4 steals, and 1 or less turnovers. Against a top 25 team as well, may I add. So that is unbelievable. But the part, Adam, that impresses me the most is Purdue has had the second hardest strength of schedule this season. It's not like they're playing, lower end cupcakes, exactly. They are playing really talented teams, and they're still finding a way to get it done. Their home floor advantage is obvious. They're playing so well in Mackey Arena, and they're just all around a really, really strong team.
Now, the NCAA tournament is a couple months away, and there's always talk about the Big Ten flaming out in the tournament, which has happened in recent years. Michigan State's the highest-ranked team right now, as of today, in the Big Ten. Do you think they have a chance to make the furthest run?
It's hard to say for me right now because their best win was at home against Illinois. That's their highest-ranked win. And Illinois, they're a very good basketball team, but I still would like to see them go up against a UCLA, an Oregon, a Purdue, a team that has played really good ranked teams consistently and beaten them. They're going to play all 3 of those teams in February, so we'll get our answer pretty quickly. But Michigan State is very impressive. They've got a great mix of young talent and then experience. They've got a great combination. Jaden Atkins around 14 points a game, and then for just one example, Jace Richardson around 10 points a game coming off the bench every single time. So they've got a really good pieces. Izzo has a lot of good talent to work with. I just don't know if he can put it together because we haven't seen it.
So we'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about a team who has not been very good, and that's Indiana. They've been unranked for a while now, but I think it's fair to say, one of the most historic college basketball programs. And under Mike Woodson, they lost another heartbreaker, this time to Maryland.
Yeah, that was brutal. To me, it just looks like the Hoosiers, they aren't decisive enough on the floor. There's so many instances where it gets down to the final seconds of the shot clock and someone has to heave. That is not going to bring a lot of success. It doesn't feel like they have a dependable player or play to go to when they need a bucket. And we pretty much saw exactly that against Maryland. 3 seconds, they had to get a high-quality 2. They're only down 1. They didn't even need a 3. And they got it to Miles Rice in the corner, who was trapped, spun, and threw up a prayer. Like, that's just not going to work. So I think for Indiana, they need better leadership. I don't know where that leadership needs to come from, on or off the court. I'm not one that can say.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
I think that it starts with the leadership. Someone needs to be there and say, this is the play we have to run on the court when we're in a tough spot or when we're down and the other team's going on a run. They just haven't been decisive enough for my liking on the floor, and it's led to some really, really low percentage shots late in the shot clock.
Let's flip it over to the other side. Maryland, they've won 5 out of their last 6. They've been impressive.
Yeah, they have. They're sharing the wealth really, really well. as a team. Over their past 5 wins, at least 3 players have been in double-digit scoring, and at least 1 has had 20-plus points. So they've got a lot of talent, and we saw it firsthand against Indiana the other day.
Right.
They've got so much talent, and they're starting to put it together. The part that also has impressed me is they're shooting the 3-ball really well.
You saw that yesterday.
Exactly. We saw it recently. They shot 50% against Indiana. And over those 5 wins, the lowest they shot was, I think, around 31% from 3, which if you're shooting 30% from 3, I think you're going to be pretty happy about that. So they're shooting the 3-ball well. They have tons of players that can get the ball in the cup, and they seem to have just kind of put it together. And that's really what it comes down to. A team that can put it together, that doesn't have as much talent, is 9 times out of 10 going to beat a really talented team that is discombobulated. And that's kind of, frankly, what we saw against Indiana.
Yeah, that was pretty much Maryland versus Indiana.
Yeah.
So let's move over to another sport where you're now going to turn to the ice and get you some scores from Big Ten hockey. It was a massive weekend for second-ranked Michigan State as they swept fourth-ranked Minnesota 9-3 and then won in a 3-3 game in a shootout. Penn State shook up the hockey landscape as they won both games against 9th-ranked Ohio State. First, they won 6-6 in a shootout, and then 3-2 in overtime. Number 10, Michigan, split a 2-game series with Wisconsin, losing the first game 5-4 and winning the second game in a shootout 4-4 the final. Lastly, an unranked matchup between Lindenwood and Notre Dame saw each team win a game apiece. Lindenwood won 3-2 in the first game, while the Irish won game 2 4-2. Last sport we're going to go over today is wrestling. The Big Ten has been dominant once again this year in wrestling. They currently have 9 teams in the top 25. The unanimous number 1 team in the nation is, of course, Penn State. And you can guess what happened against number 14 Rutgers. They dominated again, winning 35-3. A top 5 showdown in Iowa City as number 2 Iowa took on 4th-ranked Ohio State. A semi-close match saw the Hawkeyes take it 24-13. 7th-ranked Nebraska had a huge win on the road against number 18 Michigan. 38-6 win for the Cornhuskers. Very similar score a couple days later against Michigan State as they claimed victory again, this time 38-3. Number 8 Minnesota picked up 2 unranked road wins. First, 39-3 against Wisconsin, and then 29-12 over Northwestern. The 10th-ranked Illini won 33-7 in College Park, but dropped a super close match to 14th-ranked Rutgers 16-15. Michigan, ranked 18th, bounced back from their loss to the Cornhuskers, defeating number 24 Indiana 22-13. The 24th-ranked Hoosiers did pick up a win over the Spartans on the road, 35-3. That is going to wrap up today's show. Huge thanks to our producer, Colin Dusek, and teleprompter, Henry Thuss, for making all of this possible. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at B1G_under10. And check back in later for our next episode of Big Ten Under 10.